5:01. All right, we obviously have nobody here in the room with us. Is anybody online? No. Okay,
This is quick and dirty.
well, we'll make this as quick as possible then. All right, I guess we can vote on the minutes. Thank you very much for putting together the minutes, Michelle.
Yes, well, I'll make a motion to approve the August 8th, 2024 meeting minutes.
I approve.
You, a second, so all in favor, aye. Motion carried. Yay, we can finally get the minutes online. All right, so there is no public comment. So with that in mind, I guess I'll start off on project updates. It has, believe it or not, been a very busy month. Evening, Craig. The make-ready All Points broadband, the make-ready process is complete. And what that means is all the poles are up and ready. The one caveat is the town of Kilmarnock. And I think everybody here is now aware that when they went to Kilmarnock, they looked at the pole situation. The poles were in lousy shape, so they were going to bury fiber. Found that the county, or Kilmarnock rather, wasn't real happy with that because they were planning to come right down Main Street and tear up sidewalks and everything else. So APB went back to Dominion. And Dominion said, well, you can use our conduit. And Kilmarnock said, not so fast. You have a franchise agreement with Kilmarnock. So you now have to negotiate a franchise agreement with multiple tenants to include APB. So Dominion and Kilmarnock are in the process of doing that now. I understand that it's going okay. It's just a two-way negotiation. It doesn't occur overnight. So that is still the long lead time item on the APB list. Other than that, everything else is going well. And they say that Kilmarnock and Dominion are cooperating, so they don't foresee any long issues with this, but just the same, it's still in negotiation phase. I'm going to reverse order a bit because my breeze line status includes an item that's actually tied to BTS. We found that in June, BTS turned down the county smart poles. We knew they were going out of business in the August timeframe. We did not anticipate that they would turn us off in June, but they did. And this was partially, I think they were bleeding pretty heavily, it looks like. So they, at this point, have sold the business to Virginia Broadband. And Virginia Broadband will become the owner of record for the customers as of August 30th. And I have been told that that's approximately 80 customers by Virginia Broadband. So remember, back, 4 or 5 months ago, they were somewhere in the vicinity of 176 customers. And Jeff Bekos had told us that they had lost a lot to APB. So people saw APB coming and jumped on it.
That's good. It's kind of what we expected.
So
Expect that.
with that, we talked to the new owners about possibly picking up the smart poles. They said they would look into it. At the same time, they told us they do not need our equipment, which is the tower connection out back here, and I guess there's a cabinet at the base with the receiver equipment in that, and they don't need any of that. They obviously have their own equipment. So that's to be looked at some point. But again, I think probably we're looking at the end of August based on the timeline of the project.
What Don was asking earlier, he asked me if, who's paying for the pole rental space right now?
Well, as you recall, we had worked the deal out for Jeff Becos to take it over. It
Jeff
didn't
hasn't
happen.
paid in over 5 months.
So we're on the hook.
All right.
So that's, I mean, we got to talk about the finances here in a
So
minute
the
anyway.
county's responsible.
Yeah.
That's their lease though, right?
I think
Or
it's
is that
us.
coming out of our budget?
I think it's coming out of our budget.
I thought we
Yeah,
assumed it.
because of,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
okay.
So, back to Breeze Line now. Nothing happening with Breeze Line. As far as I know, they've done nothing with Bead. They're kind of, it is what it is at this point. Their Vati project is done. We did talk, Cherie and I did talk to Tom Wagner at Breeze Line about the Smart Pole project to see if they could do anything for us. The bottom line for them is they would need an integrator to pick up responsibility and run the poles and then connect to Breeze Line for distribution. So that one's kind of way out there. The other thing that I did relative to this, Tyler Becos had sent me a report of performance, and I'd be happy to share this, Michelle, so you can put it in the records. I'll just send it to you.
Okay.
But the best performance we had in December was at the Boys and Girls Club, which was 22 meg down, 7 meg up. Everything else was a fraction. Coratoman was 8.6. Beulah was 25.3. Downtown was 15.5. So there's no rational reason for any of these being what they are, but they're not good.
Yeah, well, Caratoman's out in the middle of the desert, basically.
Well, understand the Coratoman one is way out there. And Thomas Landing, it was 7.3, and again, I understand that, because that's far away from a signaling perspective. But, you know, things like downtown and the YMCA was 10.3. So none of these poles are performing well. So anyway, the Breeze Line situation is, they can't help us directly. They can make some introductions if we were so inclined. We also have calls into Verizon to see if there's any interest. So far, they haven't gotten back to us either. Quite honestly, I think the only thing that makes any sense at all would be to put a wireless connection on the pole and run it as a wireless connection. But
Cellular wireless?
put a 5G connection on there, yeah.
Well,
5G is going to beat the specs we've got on the wireless connection.
YMCA area is not gonna do good because YMCA Hospital and DMV Road are all kinda in and out cellular wise. Like you drop signal there.
Well, that's the big problem. I mean, Jeff Becos had suggested, or no, excuse me, Tyler had suggested that possibly T-Mobile might be an alternative for us. But, you know, when I have people come to my house with T-Mobile, you know, they're begging to get on my Wi-Fi as soon as they hit the door because they can't get text or
Right.
anything. So, you know, that to me is a non-starter. And even Verizon is iffy depending on where you are. In fact, that's when I found out Thomas Landing. I was there for the launch date at Thomas Landing, and my signal was gone, so I tried to log on to the tower. That's when I found out they'd shut that tower down. So anyway, not much good news to report there. We're gonna have to wait and see, but we don't wanna wait too long because we're spending $1,700 a month, $1,721, I think, on the tower lease, if memory serves me.
17, I think it's 23 and some change. but
Okay,
it's-
I'm in the ballpark, so.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and let's also remember that this system was put together in 2020, so it's 5 years old. So in internet years,
Ancient.
that's ancient, yeah.
So what's the purpose of even, if the customers are going to be served by Virginia broadband, the sole, for the, and they already have their own equipment, so they don't need that
Well,
tower lease. Is
there's,
that
yeah,
correct?
there's two things, two pieces to BTS. Number
Right.
one is BTS was serving 170-some customers.
Right.
It's down to 80. Virginia Broadband will pick them up
Oh,
as
it's down
of.
to 80. I thought you said 45, I'm sorry.
No, they're down to 80 customers.
Okay.
And VA Broadband will pick them up. The
Right.
date I wrote down was August 30th.
So those
they-
people are without service until
they-
August 30th.
I can't say that. I don't know that for certain because I haven't spoken to anybody that's a BTS customer.
Oh, okay.
For all I know, they're still out there as BTS customers, and it's running as is. I don't know that for certain. What I do know is that Becos walked away from the tower lease here. He hasn't paid the bills.
Right.
And I do know that Virginia Broadband does not need the radio equipment or the tower here. They have other facilities that they're planning to leverage. So that tower is now a stranded asset.
Well, not really, because the county wants to take it over for their emergency equipment. So
Well-
it's in our pockets for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Well, if the county needs it for something, that may work out
It may
fine.
work out, but,
Yeah.
oh, so if these 80 who are still on there now, if they're having problems or not connected, who would they call to complain or try to
Just
get it
said Dad
fixed?
picked them up.
Well, I know that Virginia Broadband is picking them up.
Okay, but
So-
in the interim, I mean, obviously, if they call BTS, they're not gonna get any response.
Well, yeah, that's an excellent question. I don't have an answer for you because Beco shut his office down.
So
They even gave away the furniture next door.
So we
So-
really don't know if they're
We-
getting any service or not.
Well, the office was an office here, but they were running things somewhere else anyway. So the network assets, I'm sure, are still up and running because BTS served a larger, they had over 300 customers in an extended area. So 176 were in Lancaster County, but there's a bigger element, and I know that Virginia Broadband has purchased all of it. So, Becos is walking away, and Virginia Broadband, John Simpson, I think, is the president there that's going to take that over.
Okay.
So my expectation is that BTS is somehow servicing this network until the transaction clears at the end of this month.
He definitely has to
Okay,
keep those
so
customers.
then BTS was supposed to take over the lease. They never did.
They
The
started
pay-
paying for it, but then they stopped.
Okay. So they're in breach of that contract.
Yes,
Okay. Do we know what the total amount is on that?
I do not.
Don knows, because he was naming off the months to me. I think it's 5 months total.
Okay. So are they 5 months total? And then are they liquidating? You said they're out of business. Are they dissolving, going completely out of
selling.
business? They're
They-
selling.
They're selling the business to Virginia Broadband.
Okay. So we need to approach Virginia Broadband and this is a liability that that APB had, or not APB, BTS has. And so we should let Virginia Broadband know about it and see if they can help us get paid.
And I'm gonna tell you now, VAB
They don't care.
doesn't have the best track record either.
Oh. But I mean, so they're getting the benefit of these customers paying them, right?
Yeah.
So,
VAB's, never mind.
it's not that much money is the problem, to pay a lawyer to sue them for breach of contract. But we could take them to small claims court.
Yeah, couldn't you get a judgment against them?
You
I
can
mean,
get a judgment
yeah,
against them,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I guess the judgment.
I don't
would-
know, I mean, only if you're around when they sell something, or could you collect? it?
Yeah,
That's
somebody'd
the
have to,
question.
somebody
But
knowledgeable.
They're gonna have assets, if they're gonna have assets to collect from if get a garnishment on their bank account. If they're getting money coming in because of this sale,
You should
then
be able
we
to
could
tax
garnish
them.
their bank account,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the BTS.
It would be BTS.
It'd be, yeah.
Yeah,
Which
BTS is
you'd have to go
liability.
after BTS for breach of contract.
Yeah.
And it would have to come from the sale of the services.
Well, I mean, it depends if they have any money coming in, I mean, or
Yeah.
a bank account with any money in it, but you can garnish the bank account,
Yes.
but it costs money to do it.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you may be spending good after bad, but who knows?
Right. But
You
that
don't
would
know
be
till you try.
something to ask Jim.
Mm-hmm.
That would be worthwhile.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
I can
I will.
I can get Don and we can check with Jim if you want.
You know, and
So-
maybe it's just a threatening letter saying, you know, unless you agree that you're gonna pay us by X date when you get the money coming in, okay.
We're
You don't
gonna
have the money
file-
now, but if you don't pay us,
Yeah, we're gonna
Um,
pursue collection activity.
right.
Speak of the devil.
Oh, he's been listening.
And hopefully, the contract has an attorney's fees provision in it.
Here he comes. He's heard us.
And
He's heard us.
if that's the case.
When he heard his name, he popped out.
If that's the case,
It's
then it's worth
five months
doing.
is what you counted, right?
Well, what you and I talked about earlier, I'm thinking
It's 5 months, and it's like 1,800, with the 5-year escalator, it's like $1,868 a month now is the monthly fee.
And then throw.
Did we assign, the county assigned those contracts to the broadband authority, though?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that, you know, the legal aspect of it shouldn't come from the broadband
would.
authority.
I think it
Yeah.
would.
Yeah.
It would.
So, you know, that, I think that would be the first step, but I think that's a good idea.
So we
So
just need to.
should we ask Jim about
Well,
what?
that's why I came in, because I think from a legal aspect, I think it would come from the broadband authority instead of from the
Okay.
county.
Well, we could ask Jim.
We
Yeah.
can just ask
Yeah.
Jim. I can call
But,
Jim.
yeah,
Oh,
Jim
yeah,
can
yeah.
do that for them, can he? If-
Jim could, I mean, but, I mean, Cherie's an attorney, Michelle's
Oh,
an
yeah.
attorney.
Yeah,
I forget that. I forget that.
we don't represent the broadband authority. And I retired and I gave up my liability insurance.
Oh, okay.
That's the big point, the liability
Yeah, I
insurance.
know. But,
So we could hire somebody, but there might be an attorney's fee provision in the contract. I don't remember.
yeah,
And if there is, then it's worth doing, because then,
yeah, it would be, and I mean, it's gonna, it would cost money either way, whether Jim does it or whether, you know, the broadband authority hires an attorney to
right,
to
or we
pursue
would
this.
hire.
All right,
Yeah.
so right now, where is that money currently coming from to pay the company that owns the tower?
The county pays that monthly bill every month. And what I've done is I've debited the broadband authority's budget line item for that. Yes.
So the county's paying it, but it's as if the broadband.
It's coming out of the
authority's-
broadband authority's
Our
budget.
monies,
Yeah,
which
Yep.
we don't really spend a lot of money, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna make that suggestion to them that we talked about earlier about the other.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. You know, at some point down the road, whenever the time is right, I think it's a good idea. So,
Well, and that's really the state of everything I have tonight. Yeah. Verizon, I think the last thing on my item list is Verizon's VATI grant. As you know, VATI notified us that they were not fulfilling the grants. It's now up to BEAD. The BEAD money has been awarded to the state of Virginia, but we have not heard how it will be distributed. What I can tell you is that in a conversation I had with Tom Ennis, he's suggesting now that we do two things if we deal with any potential customers that are having issues. If they're not on the FCC broadband map, make sure to challenge the address, add them to the FCC map. And then second, where APB was concerned, it said even if they don't show up as being covered, to have them fill out the address information. They will do their darndest to connect anybody they can, as if they're even close. So moving forward, that's the immediate plan that we have. Any questions on that?
Has Verizon indicated, since that they weren't awarded the VATI, that they'd be interested in pursuing the BEAD?
They are. everybody is waiting on the BEAD awards,
Okay.
and we hear different stories. I've tried to get a little closer to BEAD and have not succeeded. I did sit in on a session, Cherie and I sat in on a session, I can't remember the organization, it's part of DHCD, so, but it turned out it was small grants up to 25,000 and not being used for hardware, but used for educational purposes. So you could like hold meetings at the library to teach people how to use broadband, that sort of thing. But you weren't going to get any money from this for actual deployment. So again, BEAD looks like the best thing right now, but the BEAD timeline has closed. So there is a list of addresses that were not covered by other requests that are now part of that BEAD request. The monies have been awarded. We're waiting to hear how it's going to be done. Verizon actually heard that they were maybe going to bid that out, and so, or some way of sharing it with different providers, so no one provider ended up with everything. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But we're plugged in and monitoring it.
Do they have any idea of when they think that will start to happen?
The money was just awarded at the beginning of August, so
Okay.
we're talking about, it's fresh news. We had heard the end of the month.
Okay.
That seems kind of quick
Early.
for, you know, to figure out what to do, but we'll see.
Okay.
And Keith, how about with APB, I keep having people ask, you said the make ready is complete, and they said that they were gonna be done in like June. I think they made the mistake of saying they'll be complete in June, so everybody was expecting like service, I think, in May or June, and so, I get all these people asking me, when are we gonna have service? Are they answering that question?
So it's a wonderful question. They're supposedly not letting people sign up until they're ready to serve the area. So
Right.
if you recall, we talked about a 90-day window.
Right.
There was up to 90 days in advance that they would let people sign up for the service, and with the assumption that they were going to be ready. They opened up the market, so everything is now open in Lancaster County.
When you say open up the market, what do you mean?
Open meaning if your address was cleared for that VATI grant, and you went to them and you put your name in for service, you're in that 90-day window, theoretically. The reality is, with Kilmarnock, they can't be, because Dominion's still negotiating with the town of Kilmarnock. So that piece is the outlier on this.
Which is gonna affect Kilmarnock, Weems, Irvington, because that's their route through to
Yeah.
those. Yeah, so that's a,
Oh, I see. So when you say like Kilmarnock, that's like part of the highway, so to speak,
It's
going
yeah.
to these other areas.
yes.
Oh,
I think they technically call it Lancaster 4.
okay.
So at
Yeah.
the grand ceremony, that was what, 1 and 2, right? Lancaster's
Yeah.
1 and 2.
Yeah.
So
And they've recently made Lancaster 3, which is Courthouse Road, Lively area. That's hot.
Yeah, 'cause
And I
just
think
looked
the
them up
next
last
area was the Mary Point area.
Yeah, because I signed up for the farm and I haven't heard anything.
All right,
yet,
well, that's, the last email I got, that was the next area that they were gonna bring online, was the Mary Point area.
Well, I've had a few people in Lively tell me that they've gotten their service and everything's good. So, you know, it seems everybody that's talked to me has been happy with it.
And
So-
Yeah.
our foreign teachers that we got, they're renting that house right beside RM's, Redlaw, that 2-story there. And I literally just hooked up all their stuff last night, it worked great.
Oh, so people are actually getting service?
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
I didn't realize that.
yeah.
Just,
And
it's the
it's,
upper end of the county.
Yeah,
It's
it's-
the part that they ain't had it forever.
So
That's right.
Basically, Michelle, if you live over here, you're great.
Yeah.
And if you live over here, it might not be ready yet.
But most of the.
Well, a lot of people down here have breeze
Yeah, they
lines.
already had it, like,
I've never had it,
so,
but I've had Starlink.
yeah.
Okay.
And I
So
also,
so it's like, that's the critical thing that needs to be
I had to.
completed before.
Yes.
Got
Before it
We
goes
need to
further.
I got it.
Touch base the next time we talk to Breeze Line. Their contractors are coming in, trimming these trees, and then leaving the waste in people's yards and not taking it with them. Because they did that to me right there, and then I started paying attention to all the yards down the way, and that's not good for the, I wouldn't say the environment, it's not good for the people, because they get mad and
Yeah.
they'll be calling him, why all these cut down trees in my yard?
Oh, yeah, I'll get a phone call, I'm sure.
So,
Yeah, that gets into easements and all kinds of good
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, it does.
so, they
It
get to
does.
have to trim, but usually they take
Yeah.
the trimmings with them, they just don't throw them in your yard and leave them there. So,
We've had that problem before, and the answer I've sometimes gotten is that they had contracted with a different crew to come behind them
And shred.
and chip, shred the debris. So that may be the answer you'd get.
I'm still though, we should touch base, and
Yeah.
when somebody comes back to us, we're like, yeah, we said something to them.
And if that's the case, would be good to let these people who contact us know that, because some of them may try to move it themselves
Themselves,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So if they know it's gonna get picked up, that would
Yeah.
help.
Yeah, and I don't know that to be the case, but I
Yeah.
know that has been the
It's
case in the past
Possibility.
with a lot of issues. So,
All right, anything else on our suppliers? You want to take us through finances?
Financially wise, we're sitting at 66,000 in the Chesapeake account, nothing's come out. I made a suggestion to Don that when this gets close to being said and done, that we take, we're not, he thinks it's 30, I think it's 40.
yeah.
We take that amount and give it back to the economic development, because realistically, all that's gonna happen is gonna go back to the county when we close shop. But if we give it back to the EDA, as a sign of, hey, thanks guys, and then they can help somebody else with that money.
Yeah. The EDA gave an initial grant.
Yeah, the initial grant. to
My,
get us
my
started.
memory thinks it was 30, Kevin thinks it was 40,000, but whatever it was an initial grant when the Broadband Authority first started. And so I think what Kevin was saying, that if down the road, whenever the point in time may come that the Broadband Authority's work is complete and it's dissolved, that maybe that money could go back, whatever the grant amount was, to the EDA, so they could, put that back out to help the community.
Well, and I think we're still going to have an issue with a lot of homes that somehow are missed.
Yeah,
There's
we
gonna
gotta
be
get that straight
A lot of
first.
one-offs
Oh, yeah.
that we're dealing with, so
Yeah,
I wouldn't expect that there'll be a whole lot left over. We may have to find a way to help.
that's a good point. That's a good point.
We're running out of the grant monies now.
Yep.
I'm thinking we can just twist some arms. We ain't got these companies all this money.
Well, we definitely, APB seems receptive. If we can get Verizon in here on BEAD, I think they will be receptive to hitting some of these places. Breeze Line is willing to pay, but only if you pay. So, we got some people that have been hit with as much as $70,000 estimates to hook up Breeze Line.
Yeah, that's like a non-starter. And you think that, like,
That's
Would be
just-
for me.
That's just shutting the door in your face, is
Yeah.
what it is,
it really is.
yeah.
Well, they've given some outrageous prices for, like I think Booth had an estimate of like $8,000.
And it was right there, like, right
Yeah,
there.
it's on the street. It's $8,000
It's
to
like,
go
we
down
don't
his
wanna hook it
driveway.
up, but if you wanna pay us, we
Yeah.
will do
Well,
it.
it was sad
Well,
because
you know what
the
we
school,
should do, or people should do, is collectively, like, write a complaint to the Virginia SCC, or no, to the the company that's doing the
DHCD.
DHC and say, don't give these people grant money because they're gouging.
Wouldn't disagree.
Probably the official answer is LCAP is out there for exactly that purpose. Problem is LCAP doesn't cover you unless you're in dire straits anyway. So it's relatively of little value for the average homeowner. And again, looking at 20,000, 10,000, 20,000 for a connection,
Yeah.
you know, I can dig a whole lot of ditches for that kind of money.
We were paying, what, 1784 for the tower space, and now.
I think it's over 1,800 now.
100, so that's that price change, and that's coming out of contracted services, I believe.
It is.
Can't read these things anymore, man. So, that's the only bill we paid.
All right.
And the boss man paid it.
Anything for us?
I'm not aware of anything right now. We would like to have a representative at the board meeting on August 29th. I know you all didn't have a quorum at your June meeting, so we didn't, the board hasn't had an update in a while, so I'd like to have a representative there to give the board a little update.
How are your constituents?
As far as ones that have gotten service, I have not had any complaints as far as that. And I haven't had any complaints about anybody. I've got, the Marsh girl.
Allison Marsh.
Allison, and she's been talking to me for 2 years, and she was on the list as to be served, I think, by APB, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, she disappeared off the list, and when she went out there again, it said nobody was servicing her. So we've been talking with her for a while, and she's right at Witt's Corner is where it is. And
Yeah.
it should be serviced. Now, her home is, I don't know, 400, maybe 400 feet off the road, so she's a little bit off the road, but she's not that far out of the way.
But
So-
if that's her driveway, she just happens to have a long driveway,
Yeah.
but was like, they made the deal
A year from activation in
that
your area.
you have this flat fee.
Yeah.
And they got the grant money. I mean, can we
But
look at
No,
that?
she's
The-
saying
the-
that she
the
didn't show on their map at all.
Yeah, the problem is she was on the map early,
Yeah.
and now it's like it's disappeared.
That's
So
what-
she's on the FCC map?
I think so, wasn't she?
No,
on
she originally signed up at APB,
Yeah.
fiber.com.
And they said she had service.
Well, no, they said she was in their service
But that's
area.
what I mean.
They
And then it
showed-
changed.
And then she took it off. Okay, so we
Yeah.
need to like keep track of that.
Send me the information, and I will talk to Tom about it.
Okay.
Yeah, because she needs it bad,
Yeah.
but it's been like fighting in a circle.
But I wonder how many people that could be happening to. So I think that's happening to us too. I need to look back and see, because I used to be on it, and then I went and it said, oh, you're out of service area. And then at one point, it like popped back in, and I actually signed their contract, because there was a time when you could like go in and sign the contract. It's like an earlier version of the contract, didn't really have the terms of this. But I did it to, see, okay, well, they're offering it, maybe we're online soon. But I need to go back and look, because all of my neighbors got a notice that APB was coming, except me. And then
That's
I
sketchy.
called,
That is.
and I got this service lady who like had no idea and didn't understand and said, no, well, we're not even in your area. I mean, it was really, she had no idea. I'm like, oh, you really are in our area. But I have a super long driveway.
Yeah.
Well, there were
Same thing.
there were issues with the way the VATI grants were assigned. They used the, can't remember the name now, but they used the geographic codes that the FCC is using. So they're not zip codes. They're like these geographic boundaries that have been set up and they're mapped off. They don't lay out like an area is shaped.
On the
The
VATI application,
Yeah.
there are pinpoints for every address that they were gonna hit. And
Yeah.
like, my house was on there.
Right.
And so what we need
So
to
was
find
this
out
one.
is we need to look out at that Batty application and see.
I can
We
look
need to
that
get
up
her
here.
address and see
Yeah.
if she's on there. Because if they got the grant money for it,
They
they have
gotta
to
do it,
go.
yeah.
They took the money.
If it was on, if it's on Glenn's map,
Yeah.
we got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
I'd
they
be-
got grant money based on every single, like,
Well-
address that they identified.
Right.
They got money based on that.
Well, that's-
So if they identified that address, they have to serve
Yeah,
her.
because all those addresses were submitted in the grant.
Yes,
That's why it's so hard to explain to her, because
Yeah.
she went out there and saw her name on there.
Yeah.
And then it just
So the-
disappeared in midair.
the key is to find out if she's on that grant application.
I can give you the address.
Oh, I didn't put in a work. Yeah,
And we need to see if there's anybody, I don't know how else we find out, but if there's a way
Yeah,
to
and-
look at the map and look at those long driveways.
Unless
Because
they
when
tell
the,
us.
The workers were out laying the lines in our neighborhood. We were like, oh, well, when are you gonna go down our driveway? They're like, oh, yeah, like our bosses, they kind of had this like, oh, that driveway sort of thing.
Sir, what's
Like-
your address, Michelle?
It's 244 Clark Point Drive, Whitestone. I know mine's on the Batty application.
Two four four?
Yeah.
Yeah.
244.
So it doesn't show up
You
on the
got
map.
What are you looking at?
He got it.
What are you looking at?
Is she on the map?
This is the map that Glenn put together. It has all the addresses for Breeze Line and Vatty for the grants that they got.
I know mine was on there, because that's when
That's Breeze Line.
Gary was doing.
Both Breeze, APB and Breeze Line.
Yeah,
All right, what you got?
There's 49 on
so. I mean, I pulled up the grant application, and I can see my pinpoint on there.
It's cool. You know, right where you turn to go to Alfonso?
Yeah. I
Right
didn't know
there.
that was called Woods
Right there.
Corner. I call it Alfonso
there.
Road.
It used to be a restaurant.
Wits, and that's
Oh,
the
the
old
sign right
building that's
here?
there.
It doesn't
I
show
thought
up
that
on
was
this.
a
This is the
hotel or
original
something.
grant map. It doesn't show up here. So what I'll do, 4091.
But she's down Alfonso Road?
No, when you turn right there on Alfonso Road.
40-90.
So
her
you're saying
driveway
mine's
is
not
right
on the
before
grant
old
application
restaurant.
map?
244,
And it
no.
runs behind, and
For
their
either
house is
Breezeline or
behind the old
APB?
restaurant.
No.
that feed.
Neil
I
Marsh's
think what her problem is.
grandson.
Address?
Yes,
I mean, Neil Marsh's son.
yeah, and that's where Neil's parents used to
But
live.
they have it down Alfonso Road.
Yeah.
I
Their
know,
mailbox
but she's
is out on
she's
Miracle
not
Road,
showing
and I think
now as
Breezeline
being
actually
eligible
goes
for
on
service,
Miracle Road.
where she was at
But
one
they've
point.
got, they also touch Alfonso, which I think is
It did
APB.
her driveway.
Yeah, it doesn't make any
That's what,
sense.
yeah, it does. They just don't wanna run that damn driveway.
Yeah, they don't wanna go, it's a long.
Cause that,
it's a
I mean, the
long
cable
driveway.
runs it. Alfonso Road has it.
Yeah, she's got an APB box right up on her mailbox.
Yeah.
Oh, I do too. No, I mean, like literally,
Yeah.
it's right at the end of my driveway.
But
got
but
it.
you're not in their service.
She's got an
But I was on that grant application, I'm gonna pick up that grant
I
application.
think we need a motion to adjourn, and then we can
Go for it. Fire it off.
I'm getting
I
all
make a
fired up
motion that
now.
we,
Motion?
I've always
adjourn
been
this.
suspicious about that.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion carried.